Guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with How to Beat. And before I move on, I just thought I'd give you some good news. Since if you guys didn't see my post, finally got myself AdSense again. So yeah, I can finally monetize my content. So that's good at least. And after all that time, finally got it working. Whew. But anyway, enough about that. Just thought I'd give you guys a little heads up. Nightmare's over. Today we got how to be the prehistoric shark in the Meg. And I'm pretty sure the Meg is the Megalodon. Yeah, I've heard about that shark. Something you don't want to mess with. Ooh, not good. So, without any further ado, let's see how many people this Meg gets. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's go.
If you were being hunted by the most dangerous ocean animal to ever live, what would you do?
Huge.
This 50-ton apex predator makes Jaws look like a goldfish, and after 2 million years of waiting, it's ready to take back its spot at the top of the food chain. I hope you packed a brown bathing suit, because I'm here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the monster shark in the Meg. This team of scientists is about to make the most horrifying discovery of their lives. Deep at the bottom of an ocean trench, this guy Jonas and his team of rescue divers climb aboard a destroyed submarine and split up in search of survivors. As Jonas carries the last guy out, something huge crashes into the side of the sub, knocking his team off their feet and circling back for another strike. This time it damages the hull, and water begins to flood in, threatening to drown them if they don't get out soon. Jonas makes it aboard with the survivor, but his teammates are still trapped inside. If they don't go now, then they'll all end up dead. So he makes the difficult choice and closes the hatch, leaving his men behind.
Coming soon to a theater near you, How to Beat's official Patreon. All the guts, all the blood, all the screams, plus nasty extras. How to Beat's Patreon. 2 times the shock, 2 times the terror, 2 times the subscription levels. Have a damn good day, and it only gets better. Both levels bid you welcome to pre-sales for ghoulish official How to Beat merchandise and support the evil scientists behind the How to Beat videos. It only gets better. Subscribers are invited to the X-rated party. Ad-free and uncensored videos, too repulsive for all audiences, are available on demand. How to Beat's Patreon. In space, no one can hear you scream, but on Patreon, everyone can see you bleed. How to Beat's Patreon. Join us if you dare.
The rescue vehicle speeds away, and just in time, because this particular sub was loaded with nuclear warheads and set off a massive explosion that unintentionally killed their attacker, a bloodthirsty monster of a shark, the Megalodon. Okay, rescuing a sub-crew stuck thousands of feet below the surface is a hair-raising job, and that's before you find out that the ocean's most terrifying predator is lurking in the shadows. The Megalodon is the largest shark to ever stalk our planet's waters, estimated to reach nearly 60 feet in length and weigh up to 50 tons, making the modern great white look like a minnow by comparison. These nightmares of the deep ate adult whales for breakfast, and probably wouldn't even notice if they swallowed a human being whole. They were nature's perfect hunting machines, equipped with a mouthful of over 250 razor-sharp teeth that grew to 7 inches long and a bite force of nearly 40,000 pounds, the strongest in the entire animal kingdom. When it comes to disabled subs, there's a very limited window of time before the rescue mission becomes a recovery operation. You need to act quickly, but you also need to be sure that you know what you're getting into, since at those depths, any surprises could mean certain death, and the rescue team needed to use sonar to locate the wreckage. It's pretty hard to believe that the crew never mentioned being attacked by an actual sea monster, and even if that somehow wasn't brought up, the sonar scans should have definitely tipped the rescuers off. With the most advanced technology available at their disposal, a Goliath shark patrolling the area should have been pretty hard to miss, and they needed to come up with a plan to take it out before sending a rescue team into its path. Here's the plan. Before the rescue crew makes their descent, first we'll need to send down an underwater drone, followed by a single-person deep-diving sub specially modified to carry guided torpedoes. Once the drone lures the shark to a safe distance from the wreckage, the sub can come along and blow the creature to bits, clearing a path for our rescue team to do their thing without interruption. Jonas may have made it out alive, but he lost the rest of the crew in the process, and soon he'll get another chance to even the score. 5 years
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised they didn't make sure, like, okay, anything ahead of time? Alright, nothing on sonar, send the drone. Oh, yep, there we go. Hey, sometimes you never know what can bypass the sonar, so always make sure you got a backup plan, which these guys did not. Whoops. Alright, here's more.
Later, billionaire businessman Jack Morris takes a helicopter to his privately owned deep-sea research station, where he meets head scientist Dr. Zhang and his family. Along with Zhang's daughter Suyin, they take an elevator down to the underwater tunnels, and the owner is completely amazed. Suyin even attracted 2 humpback whales for the occasion, luring them in by playing whale songs. The station is an unbelievably scientific achievement, but in just a few hours, their research is about to turn deadly. Down in the control room, Zhang introduces him to the rest of the crew. There's Jax, the engineer, medical officer Dr. Heller, DJ the rover pilot, and Mac, the station chief. He's just in time to watch as a sub launches down towards the ocean floor, preparing to make a discovery that could change everything. Zhang believes that what seems to be at the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean is actually just a layer of freezing cold gas that could be hiding an entirely new world underneath. The sub-crew reaches the bottom and presses forward through the cloud, but that was their biggest mistake. They don't realize it yet, but they've just entered the hunting grounds of the most terrifying predator to ever exist. On the other side of the barrier, they find an entire ecosystem of creatures living around the deep-sea vents. The sub-crew launches their rover, and DJ takes control as the vehicle scans the trench for species that have never been seen before. Just then, something huge appears on the sub's radar, and it's closing in on them fast. DJ turns up the lights to get a better look, but the rover is instantly taken by the creature and dragged away. It circles back around, and this time it slams into the sub, damaging the systems and leaving them stranded on the ocean floor with no communications back to base. Okay, these researchers never saw the Meg coming, but it definitely saw them, and that's the problem. Sunlight can't penetrate all the way down to the ocean floor, but that doesn't mean that it's completely dark down there. In fact, many species of underwater life use an adaptation called bioluminescence to create their own light through chemical reactions, which helps and hurts them in a variety of interesting ways. Some species, like the vampire squid, use glowing liquid to distract their predators and buy them a chance to escape, while others, like the famous angler fish, do the exact opposite, luring their prey to its death by drawing it in with a little ball of light that looks like it could be an easy meal to an unsuspecting scavenger. The scientists should have realized that venturing into the depths, while lit up like a Christmas tree, was guaranteed to attract the attention of any monsters that were lurking nearby. Instead of making themselves a big glowing target for every predator in the abyss, the team should have used this knowledge to come up with a safer plan. They could have dropped their deployable lights to illuminate the area before turning off the spotlights and switching over to a night vision display on their bubble screen, effectively making them much harder to see while still having the ability to observe their surroundings. It's not a foolproof plan, since sharks primarily hunt by hearing and smell rather than by sight, but anything that they could do to make themselves harder to detect would be worth it. Once a giant, unidentified creature appears on the radar and demolishes the rover, that's your cue to cut the lights, blow the ballast tanks, and jet up to the surface before it's too late. Since this crew of geniuses decided to sit around and try to get a better look at the sea monster, now they're stuck deeper than any person has ever gone before, with no chance but to sit there and wait for someone to do the impossible and come to their rescue. Fortunately, they know just the man for the job, but based on his track record, there's no guarantee that they're all going to make it out alive. The surface team calls for an emergency meeting where Dr. Heller explains that he still has access to the crew's vital signs. They're all still alive, for now, but unfortunately, their options for a rescue plan are limited. The sub's ballast valves are jammed, which means that it can't rise to the surface by itself. And if they try to tow them out, there's a 50-50 chance that the tanks will explode, busting the capsule and killing them all. Connecting straight to the hatch won't work either, since it's too badly damaged. They're stuck more than 6 miles below the surface, and only one man has ever attempted a rescue at that depth and lived to tell the tale. But after what happened on his last mission, some of them don't want to call him in. It's a heated argument, but Zhang says that they have to consider all of their options, and the decision is made. Jonas is going to get his shot at redemption, but first, they'll have to track him down. Meanwhile, at a dockside bar in Thailand, the disgraced rescuer is drowning his sorrows away, one beer at a time, trying his best to forget the time he left his friends to drown, literally. After waking up from a quick power nap, he hops on his tiny motorcycle and drives back to his apartment, where he sees a helicopter parked across the street. Mac and Zhang are waiting for him inside, but he already knows what they're about to ask, and flatly explains that there's nothing they can say to get him back in the water. About 10 seconds later, they tell him that his ex-wife Lori is on board the sub, and just like that, Jonas is out of retirement. Time is running out. This guy Toshi starts writing a letter to his wife in case he doesn't make it, but that's when they manage to restore power to the computers and life support. Suddenly, Lori's face drops as she realizes the danger that they've put themselves in. She tries to shut off the lights, but it's too late, and an enormous creature rams into the sub, sending everyone flying. As if things weren't bad enough already, Lori gets up only to realize that she's just taken a sharp piece of metal to the kidney. With no chance to escape, they shut off the lights, stuck like canned sardines, unless one bald and burly hero can come to their rescue. The sub is leaking oxygen, leaving the crew with only a few hours to survive. So Soyeon decides that she's going to take her own vehicle to try and tow them out, putting her life on the line to save the team. Soyeon boards her glider and descends into the water, plummeting down past the tunnels and towards the depths below. Jonas and the others arrive at the station, and after a quick checkup with his old pal, Dr. Heller, he's cleared for action. The rescue is on. With his tools loaded onto the sub, Mission Control clears him for departure, but PTSD kicks in as he stares into the abyss like he can hear the dying cries of his fallen brothers. Just when everyone starts to get worried, he launches towards the depths, manually diverting power to the motors for a more rapid descent. With rescue on the way, the chief tells Suyin to return to the surface, but she refuses to back out, pushing through the cloud and into the hunting grounds. She scans the trenched floor, eventually finding the stranded sub, which is when all hell breaks loose. Something huge flips her glider upside down, but this is no shark. Its tentacles wrap around the capsule, revealing that she's actually being attacked by the submarine's greatest natural enemy, a colossal giant squid. Just when it looks like it's about to crush the pod and suck Suyin out like an oyster, the squid mysteriously lets go, falling victim to the real apex predator, the Meg itself. Suyin and the team on the surface realize that Jonas wasn't crazy after all. He breaches the cloud and tells Suyin to cut her lights, but the system is badly damaged and takes too long to be shut down. The shark circles back, about to finish her off until Jonas launches a bunch of flares, luring it away. With her glider damaged, she takes her only shot at escape and launches back to the surface, leaving Jonas to complete the mission alone. Hooking onto the hatch, he uses some tools to break his way in and starts to pull the others up to safety. Sure enough, the shark returns, and if it hits the vehicles while they're still attached, everyone is going to die. That's when Toshi slips the letter into his friend's pocket before sealing the hatch, sacrificing himself so that the others can get away. In an instant, the Meg crushes him in its jaws, destroying one of the thermal vents in the process. But the chaos is only just getting started. Okay, is it just me, or are SpongeBob's neighbors looking a little rough these days? They may have saved two of the researchers, but they also lost a sub, a rover, and Toshi in the process. So it's not exactly time to pop the champagne and celebrate a job well done. The Meg is the real apex predator here, but you have to be prepared for anything. And if there's one thing any deep-sea submission can count on, it's that sooner or later a giant squid is showing up to the party. You could have the engineers design a system that would create an electric field from outside of the sub, zapping the monster when it tried to grab you with its suckers. If that's not exciting for you, then how about a giant remote-controlled chainsaw arm that you could deploy to cut the creature's arms off? Even simply covering the sub in spikes could do the job. If you're going to do sci-fi stuff at the bottom of the ocean, then it only makes sense to create some sci-fi weapons too. Now, when the
yeah, let's be real. If you're going down deep where giant squids are going to be a problem, like, even if it's, like, unlikely you'll encounter one, just, it's always best to have it and not need it than need it to not have it. You know? Always important to make sure, right? Which, whoops. At least that's what I would have done, but anyway.
Preacher attacked the rover, and then the sub. We found out that it's attracted to sources of light, which gives us some important information to work with. You need to reduce the beast's ability to see you as much as possible. Several species of deep-sea fish have managed to turn themselves ultra-black, giving them the ability to absorb over 99% of the light that hits them, and making them all but completely invisible to both predators and prey. To create a similar effect, scientists created a coating of carbon nanotubes called Vantablack, which absorbs light so well that it can make a three-dimensional object appear as a flat two-dimensional void. Vantablack coating is also extremely hydrophobic, which could affect the operation of the sub, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I completely understand how it works. That's why the engineers get paid the big bucks. By designing the sub to absorb as much light as possible, this would make it much harder for any giant squids or megalodons to spot me cruising below the surface, and just might give me the advantage that I need to get the job done. But you might also want to consider using the shark's attraction to light to your advantage. I'd want to arm my sub with deployable beacons that are rigged with high explosives. Then, as soon as it showed up, I'd speed away to a safe distance from the wreckage before launching the lights and waiting until the shark got close to detonate the charges. If you could take out the big threat, then the rest of the rescue should be a breeze, and you might even actually save everyone this time around. Speaking of saving everyone, Toshi's sacrifice was very heroic but also very stupid. This might seem like a crazy idea, but when a 60-foot long shark is bearing down on you, maybe try climbing faster? Letting the wounded lady go first is nice and all, but there's no such thing as chivalry when you're 30,000 feet underwater. And you can bet that I would have pushed her out of the way to make sure that I was the first one up. Let them give me dirty looks all the way back to the surface. What do I care? I'm quitting this job as soon as we're on dry land anyway, now that they've made their escape. Jonas probably thinks he'll be back in Thailand in time for happy hour, but the truth is that the Meg has other plans. Back on the surface, the crew gathers in the meeting room to decide what to do next. Zhang wants to take it slow, because although their discovery could change the world, it came at the cost of their friend's life. Morris chimes in that while they sit around thinking about what to do, the station is costing him millions of dollars, and they need to act fast before other scientists come along and take credit for their work. He's right, but Jonas isn't convinced, promising that the Meg will kill anyone who's dumb enough to go back down there. While the adults discuss the best way to turn a profit on the 50-ton killing machine, Mei Ying goes to play with her toys in the underwater tunnels, and she's about to realize that she isn't alone. As she wanders through an unfinished section, the Meg appears out of the shadows behind her, chomping the glass with its massive jaws. Upstairs, the adults can hear the crash and run to rescue the girl. She tells them there's a monster outside, and they turn around to see a massive bite mark in the glass. Mac approaches to get a better look as a huge creature bumps the window, but it's only the baby humpback. After a moment, they start to wonder what happened to the mom, and that's when the Meg returns, biting the whale in half before swimming out of sight. The team meets in the control room, where they realize that the destruction of the thermal vent created a hole in the freezing barrier. Although the gap was only temporary, it was large enough for dozens of sharks to swim through, and there's a chance that this Meg isn't the only one that got out. Jonas says that they need to find the shark and kill it, but Suyin wants to take the monster alive. Just then, the station receives multiple distress calls from nearby ships. Determined to finish what they've started, the crew boards a research vessel and heads for the source of the beacons. What they find isn't pretty. The boats are completely destroyed, with no signs of survivors. Searching through the wreckage, they realize that the boats belonged to shark poachers who were killing the animals for their fins. Zhang comes up with a plan to use a shark cage to spear the Meg with a lethal amount of sedatives. But by the time they have their equipment ready, the shark will be long gone. So Morris chimes in that they should hit it with a tracker. It's a good idea, with just one tiny problem. They'll have to get in close to hit their target, and since the Meg is dangerously hostile to boats, someone is going to have to swim for it. Since nobody wants to volunteer, Jonas puts on his wetsuit and gets ready to come out of retirement for the second time in 24 hours. Okay, I know what you're thinking, and trust me, your ears do not deceive you. They really did just convince this guy to go for a swim with a Megalodon. If it were anyone but Jason Statham, then you could verbally guarantee that they would be shark food in the blink of an eye. He's either very brave or really stupid, but since I'm neither of those, I'd want to come up with a different solution. And the way I see it, you've got a few pretty obvious options that don't involve taking a dip with a boat-eating behemoth. Since it's too dangerous to get the tracker onto the shark, what's stopping them from trying to get the device into the shark? Just put the tracker in some bait and fling it out there and hope that the Meg comes along and swallows it whole. Sure, it'll probably either be dissolved by its stomach acid or crapped out eventually, but they only need about 20 minutes to get the shark cage ready, so that should be plenty of time. If it doesn't work, then they're only out one tracker, and nobody has to risk their life in the process. It could also be possible to skip the tracker and shark cage altogether and just cut right to the chase of taking it out. Here's what I'm thinking. Since we know that the shark will attack any boat that cruises by, they could load up one of the lifeboats with explosives and send it out there as a decoy. The Meg chases the raft, you detonate the charges when it gets close, and boom! Humans are back at the top of the food chain. If they went Meg hunting without packing any high explosives, well, you get what's coming to you at that point. Option 3 is a bit less conventional, but still worth a shot. Where all else fails, use a meat shield. And lucky for us, we happen to have a greedy billionaire on board who would be perfect for the job. Just tie him up with a rope, strap a lethal amount of sedatives to his chest, and push him overboard while you speed off into the sunset. Hopefully the shark would die from ingesting the chemicals, and since it's essentially Morris's fault that the thing escaped in the first place, you could kind of say that he deserved it. Whatever solution you could come up with, jumping in the water with nothing but a spear gun and plot armor wouldn't be my first choice, but that's exactly—
Yeah, no kidding. You're gonna need a main amount of luck if you want to just jump in there without the shark cage. Which, honestly, I would have been like, nah, you got any diggies? We're just gonna blow it up. Without that or the sedatives. I'm just saying, you don't need the whole shark, just need a piece of it, right? I mean, you could clone it, but I don't know if I want to clone it. Yeah, bad idea all around, but yeesh. All I can say, good luck, man. You're gonna need it, Jonas.
Exactly what Jonas is about to do. With the team looking on, he dives from the boat and swims out to meet the shark on its home turf, needing to get within 100 feet before he can take the shot. The beast descends below the surface, and Jonas pulls on his goggles to look around, but he can't see anything in the eerie darkness. It could be anywhere, and sure enough, the monster fish circles in closer, bringing itself within spear range. Jonas takes aim and fires his rifle, striking the shark with a clean hit. He's managed to do his part, but now he'll have to get back to the boat. The crew starts to tow him back in, but the vibrations quickly attract the Meg's attention, and suddenly, Suyin isn't the only one who thinks Jonas looks like a whole snack. Tossing his weapon, he swims for his life in a race that he has no chance to win, the boat hurtling forwards and pulling him through the water just out of the monster's reach. Suddenly, it dives below the surface, only to blast back up and leap out of the water for one last chomp as Jonas is pulled to safety. They congratulate him on making it back alive, but the battle is far from over. With the tracker online, Zhang and the doctor prepare the sedatives for phase 2 of their plan while Jonas inspects the cage. This time, Suyin volunteers to do the deed since he's an expert on shark anatomy and knows exactly where to strike. Putting on her equipment, she arms herself with the spear and plunges in. The crew chums the water, attracting a swarm of terrifying sharks that surround the cage. But suddenly, they all disappear. Their radar shows the shark approaching, and it takes her by surprise, slamming into the cage from below. She watches as the massive beast circles around, but it retreats when she shines the laser in its eye, only to double back and grab the whole cage in its mouth, taking Suyin and the entire boat for an unexpected ride. The winch strains and collapses, narrowly missing 2 of the crew, while underwater Suyin takes aim, nailing the shark right in the soft tissue of its mouth. The poison is in. Circling around, it grabs the cage from the bottom, looking like it's about to swallow the entire thing with Suyin still inside. Jonas quickly puts on his gear,
Jonas,
diving
go.
into the water and following the cable straight down towards them. Before he can get close, the Meg swims away, rotating the crane and sending Jax tumbling overboard. Feeling her hit the water, the shark releases the cage and turns towards the boat, causing Suyin to fall and crack her mask on the metal grate. Morris lowers in a rope ladder, pulling Jax to safety an instant before she almost became shark food. Suyin passes out from a lack of oxygen as the crane falls into the water, about to drag her down to her death until Jonas pulls her out just in time. Meanwhile, the crew uses the second crane to create a giant cable lasso, luring the shark with some bait. The plan works, stopping the shark just feet from Jonas and Suyin, although one of the researchers is knocked overboard in the process. Furious, the shark chomps at them with its last burst of energy, before finally coming to a stop and dying from the poison. Okay, this guy really just went for a swim with the Meg twice in the span of half an hour and lived to tell the tale. What a Chad. The thing is, his plan only worked by dumb luck. If the crane hadn't snapped and pulled the cage away, then he was basically just serving himself up to the Meg as a 2-for-1 combo meal. Once the shark started trying to swallow the cage whole, the way I see it, you've got 3 options. The most obvious and least dangerous to your own life is to just release the cable and let it take her, which I'm perfectly okay with, even though it's definitely not the most heroic outcome. Looking at it from a purely practical standpoint, the poison was in, which means that the Meg was going to die either way. Suyin knew the risks when she got in the cage, so I'm in no way obligated to put my life on the line to get her out of harm's way. This would leave poor little Maying without a mom, but she could always go live with her dad and that Pilates instructor that he ran off with in Taipei, and at least she'll know that her mom died a hero. She's got 2 parents, but I only have 1 life, so you do the math. Option 2 would be to do what Jonas did and just dive in the water, swim right at the Meg, and hope that it all works out for the best, which I'm definitely not going for. So that leaves us with our third plan, and again, I'm thinking that this would be a great time to use one of the lifeboats as a distraction. We saw that the shark was drawn away when Jax fell in the water, and then lured into the trap by the bait that the crew threw in. So there's a very good chance that getting it to chase one of the boats would have worked. Tie some chum to the back, jam the throttle, and send one of those rafts hurtling out to sea. And hopefully, the Meg would be attracted by the movement and scent of the bait and swim off to die somewhere far away, leaving you free and clear to take your time to get Suyin back out. Their plan worked, and this Meg is dead, but they're about to find out that there are still other fish in the sea. Later that day, Suyin wakes up in bed and thanks Jonas for saving her life a second time. Back outside, the crew has the Meg hung up with a cable, and this researcher leans in for a picture. It's all fun and games until the cable gives, scaring the man and sending him backwards into the water. They have a good laugh until Jonas realizes that the teeth on this shark don't match up with the bite marks on the tunnel back at the research station. But it's too late, and a shark 5 times larger than the one they caught bursts out of the darkness, swallowing the man whole before belly flopping directly on top of them. The boat capsizes, sending everyone flying into the water, and one by one they scramble for the safety of the upturned hull, realizing that it's time to call in the big guns. Morse takes out his satellite phone and tells a team of mercenaries to track his location. Jonas pulls Zhang to safety, alive but seriously injured, while Jax and Dr. Heller scramble to get out of the water. With the shark closing in, the doctor realizes that they can't both make it and decides to sacrifice himself so that she can escape. His plan works, and the shark swallows him in one bite, leaving a bloody trail in its wake as the engineer joins the rest of the survivors. They hop on the lifeboats and try to speed away, but 10 miles from the wreck, the shark still won't give up the chase. That's when a military helicopter circles overhead, hitting the shark with a tracking dart before scaring it off with a burst from a rifle. They're almost home free, but sadly, it's too late for Zhang, and he dies in his daughter's arms, just a few minutes from safety. Now the man who started it all has joined the others that were lost. Finally, the crew arrives at the safety of the research station, and Suyin gives her daughter a big hug, leading her away to tell her the bad news. In a meeting with the remaining crew, Morris tells everyone that he's informed the authorities about the Meg, and the Chinese government is sending 2 battleships to take it out. The issue is out of their hands, and he'll be closing the station until the shark is killed, with a ship arriving to evacuate the team in the morning. With the researchers satisfied for now, he sneaks above deck and boards a chopper, but as you might expect from a billionaire, he hasn't been 100% honest about his intentions. His ride out came with a special present, several bundles of high explosives rigged to act as depth charges. Since he can't afford to deal with the fallout from the Meg's rampage, he plans to hunt the shark down and take it out himself. Boarding a tactical boat, he and a team of mercenaries follow the chopper until it obtains a visual on the Meg swimming just below the surface. With their target acquired, they drop the charges, blowing the creature into smelly chunks. Pulling alongside the corpse, Morris sends one of his henchmen to collect the creature's teeth and watches as a swarm of sharks come to feed. Suddenly, they all disappear, and the guy returns with the news that the creature doesn't have any teeth at all. Realizing that they've accidentally killed a whale, Morris shouts for his crew to get them out of there, and they instantly slam on the throttle, only to send him spilling out of the back, leaving without noticing that their boss just went for a swim. He sees the Meg approaching and swims for safety, the beast chomping into the whale just a few feet away. Thinking that he's just escaped death, Morris pulls himself onto the carcass, but that's when the Meg returns, exploding from the water and claiming him as a side dish.
Oof.
Okay,
Ouch.
talk about a horrible boss. I think we all saw this coming, and after all of the trouble he's caused, and innocent employees who've literally died so he could follow his dream, I can't say I'm sad to see this guy go. He may be dead, but the rest of the crew still has to clean up his mistakes. And I think it's safe to say, Morris, you f***ed up. Let's start at the beginning. When you decided to take your enormous wealth and dump it into a deep-sea research station, instead of doing something productive like feeding the needy or launching a $250,000 sports car into space. Haven't you ever seen Jurassic Park, you idiot? You've gotta know that as soon as a greedy businessman and naive scientists get together, what always follows is untold bloodshed.
Carnage.
How many times do we have to go sticking our noses where they don't belong before we come to terms with the fact that some things are better left in the past, especially when it comes to prehistoric monsters of the deep? As if erupting a hydrothermal vent and opening up a portal to the abyss for 60-foot-long apex predators to swim right on through wasn't bad enough, you decided to lie to your employees, leaving them stranded at sea before hopping in your helicopter and taking matters into your own hands in an attempt to avoid a well-deserved public relations disaster. What a classic billionaire move. Screw everything up for the rest of us and then come with the excuses and try to cover up your involvement. You made it pretty easy to root for the bloodthirsty killing machine on this one, and I think we all enjoyed watching you receive your just desserts. In the morning, Mac rage throws his notebook when he realizes that Morris lied to them, never contacting the government to warn them since he wanted to keep the incident out of the public eye. Realizing that they need to act quickly before more innocent people are killed, Jonas rallies the team to take matters into their own hands, instructing Jax to hack into the tracker and locate the shark, while he and the others load up the evacuation ship for battle. Using the GPS, they figure out that the Meg is heading straight for Sanya Bay, home to some of the most crowded public beaches east of New Jersey. Mac tries to warn the local authorities, but they don't believe his story about a prehistoric shark stalking the waters, meaning that they'll have to put a stop to its rampage themselves. The plan is simple: lure the Meg to a shallow area near an island off the coast using whale songs, and shoot it with an improvised torpedo. They climb into their sub, and there's not a moment to waste, because the shark has just arrived at Sanya Bay, and it's about to turn this tourist trap into a meat grinder. Okay, it's time for the final showdown, and it would have been really nice to get some backup. I've gotta ask, what was Mac thinking, telling the government that a prehistoric shark was on the loose? They're obviously not going to believe that, and it would have been a much better bet just to say that a huge group of regular old sharks was on its way instead. This way, the beaches would be evacuated, and the military could just figure out the real truth as it went along. With any backup from the authorities out of the question thanks to Mac's bad leadership, the plan to play whale songs actually gives me an idea for how we might be able to get some less conventional reinforcements. Hear me out. You've heard the expression that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, in this case, the shark is our enemy. So the next logical question is, what is the enemy of sharks? And lucky for us, there actually is an animal out there that even great whites are afraid of. Orcas, aka the killer whale. They didn't get that name by accident, and in fact, one pair of male orcas living off the coast of South Africa actually became famous for killing an unbelievable 17 sharks in one day. That's exactly the kind of killer instinct that we need if we're going to take down the Meg. Now, as badass as they are, unfortunately, one or two orcas probably still isn't going to be much of a match for the Meg. But the good news is, these bad boys hunt in packs, or pods if you want to be scientifically correct. Typically, a pod of orcas can consist of anywhere from 5 to 30 whales, and on occasion, these pods will even combine to form groups of more than 100. As the numbers go up, the odds of the shark winning the battle go way down, and with enough whales on the scene, even the Meg wouldn't stand a chance. It's a long shot, but instead of playing humpback whale songs to lure the Meg in, I'd play orca songs to hopefully attract a pod of those beasts to the scene. Watching a game.
Natural predator of the shark. Cool. Though, I probably would check to see... Okay, where are those? I probably would have looked into like some orca hunting patterns, considering like shark-infested waters. I would probably see... Okay, are they nearby? Okay, that should work. I don't know. That's what I would have done. But, what do you guys think? Anyway, let's see if the plan works.
Gang of orcas fight the Meg would have been one epic battle, but it looks like Jonas is going to do what he does best and rely on dumb luck to get him by. The beach and water are crowded with swimmers, but they're all too busy having fun in the sun to realize that a prehistoric killing machine is circling them in. Swimming underneath a floating platform, it tangles itself in the chain and knocks off the tracking device, dragging these girls through the water as everyone starts to notice that something is horribly wrong. A woman yells, "Shark!" sending everyone scrambling for safety, but it's too late, and the Meg starts to pick them off by the dozen. Just as it's about to attack this group of swimmers, the crew drops a speaker playing whale songs into the water, and it turns to swim towards the source of the noise, where Jonas and Suyin are lying in wait aboard their heavily armed gliders. The shark appears from nowhere, nearly blindsiding Suyin, but she maneuvers just away in time. Jonas arms his torpedo, but he can't take the shot since the Meg is so close to their ship, and it turns around, chasing him through the reef. He dives into a tunnel system, narrowly avoiding the monster's jaws, but damaging his sub in the process. As he exits the reef, he circles back towards Suyin, using the boat's propeller to buy him space so that she can line up her shot. She fires the torpedo, setting off an explosion so big that nearby news helicopters come to take a look, but it's a miss, and the Meg is still on the attack. This time, Suyin lures the shark Jonas's way, but when he tries to fire, he realizes that his torpedo is jammed. The Meg chases him under the boat as the two distracted helicopters slam into each other, one crashing down on the ship, causing everyone aboard to leap into the water for safety. With the crew in danger, Jonas leads the Meg away from the ship further out into open water. Out of options and artillery, he has one last idea and races straight towards the beast, faking up before pulling back down and using the damaged wing of his glider to slice open the monster's stomach from below. It's a devastating blow, but not enough to stop it, and the sub is out of juice, leaving him stranded as the Meg circles around and takes the glider in its jaws. Its teeth puncture the bubble, and Jonas kicks his way out just in time, hooking himself onto its side with his diving knife and driving a sharp piece of metal straight into its eyeball. Now it's time for nature to take its course, and a swarm of sharks arrives to finish the job, tearing the Meg apart just as Suyin comes to the rescue. The remaining crew are rescued by a passing yacht, where they all sit down for a cup of coffee and toast to surviving the insanity. It's over, and after a hard-fought battle, Jonas finally gets his chance to retire. That is, until the Meg returns.
But what would you do if...
Oh yeah, there was a Meg 2, if I remember correctly. Though, what happened to Lori? I'm kind of curious now. You know, the ex that he was dragged in to save? I don't know. Did I miss something? Could have sworn Lori was there, but guess not. Must have left already or still back on the ship. I don't know. Is that just me? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. See ya!